Hoi there, it's Skyward Shield. Welcome to a new Smite video. Today we're going over the patch notes for patch 3.20, Cyber Sentinel. We have some new Smite skins. So we have Warlord Kumbhakarna, and everyone's saying, okay, I was in one day I was saying that the Isis skin kind of reminded me of Mercy from Overwatch. Okay, well if they're not trying to make references to Overwatch, this one almost looks like Roadhog.
Meet your maker!
If you look at the skin better, he kind of does look more like it. Also, a little bit of Mad Max as well, so kind of a mix of both, if you ask me. Now, Rom, I recognize the voice actor.
Make it more of a challenge.
That's Ian Sinclair. It's Toriko, or Zavid if you've played Tales of Zestiria. It's so hype. They get some more Funimation voice actors here. Prototype Scylla.
Who do I need to get this time?
And Tormentula Arachne.
I'm up here!
Now, I believe the Kumba and Rom are they're Odyssey. They're non-Odyssey related skins, so you can get them at any time, I believe, and these two are. Next, Sobek, which Luminosity, Susano. So just skins for some of the esports teams. I mean, I like Sor. They're the team I pick. I kind of root for whenever I do, which is rare, watch some of these games, but I wish they had a god I play more. But I have mastered Sobek. I just don't find him as fun as to play. Of course, Scylla and Rom got some updated mastery skins. Good job on that. New avatar, cutesy, Zhonghui, and whatever, and Anubis dance. I think it's the walk like an Egyptian thing. Let's go watch some JoJo, guys. Achievements for Camisats, Hunbats, Osiris. And Odyssey for, I think Odysseus, but Odyssey is also going to come with the Lore Lady Announcer Pack. That's something I'm definitely picking up, and they clarify something with limited and exclusive content, which means any directly purchased content within an event is exclusive. Any bonus skin that is given within the context of an event is exclusive, with the exception of the final unlock skin. The final bonus skin is limited. Bonus frames, recall FX, HUD themes, avatars, and pedestal items are all limited. As an apology for this confusion, we will be giving one free cutesy chest roll to all players who have any Odyssey points collected during the 3.29 upgrade. So I don't think that's not for a while, I guess, but okay. Miscellaneous personal wards in the minimap are now green and start to pulse 30 seconds before they're expiring. That's great, so I know when I should consider placing a new ward. I mean, if I'm passing by there, I'll check, but that's good to know. Anyway, this is a great patch, and you're gonna see why. Now, let's see. Try and spot something that's bad. Like, okay, so Emperor's Mail, reduced cost 2,100 to 2,000. A small price reduction just so it can get picked up more. I don't know if that'll help too much. It's a very niche item for a niche team. I could see its use in Conquest and in Clash, but it's just in a very weird spot. On paper, it sounds great, but its stats are so low. It's not worth picking up for some, and I get that. For split pushing or defending a tower, this thing helps a lot. But that's its main purpose. Heartseeker. Okay, I already know Jingwei would pick this thing up. She's picking it up already for sure in Conquest. Heartseeker now has not just the 3-second power buff from the passive. Now it applies a 15% attack speed buff as well. Now then, doesn't that sound fun for any ADC who's picking this up? I put up a Heartseeker video in the past when this thing got its big buff, or its change, and I think this is gonna probably get it to be picked up more. This item I thought was sneaky good, especially for Jingwei, because when she activates her 2, it'll activate the passive, which, you know, she gets those 3 charged bolts. Just shooting one at a new wave hitting one will fill up 3 of those stacks. It goes up to 5 stacks if I recall. So in just one shot, you have more than half of your stacks back. 2 shots, you should have them all back. So this thing, it's easy to proc with a Jingwei. But other gods should be able to get good use of out of it now, like Rom. Because if Rom just turns on his 1, or his 2 for that matter, he's going to get even more attack speed. Stone Cutting Sword. This is my favorite one that's got to change. Stone Cutting Sword was very expensive, one of the most expensive items in the game. It's kind of like a Titan's Bane, but the difference was you have to hit people with it. So someone like a Nemesis combined with like an Executioner, or just getting Stone Cutting Sword over Executioner is okay. It gives you movement speed and some raw physical power with the passive of whenever you hit somebody, their defensive protections transfer over to you. So now it's 29,000 to 26,000, or not 29,000, 2,900 to 2,600. I like that. 300 gold may be a bit excessive. I thought this, if I think about it, if this thing gets picked up too much, I just hope they bounce it back, not to 2,900, but say 2,750. I think that's a more fair price range. But I'll take this. I'll take this because this thing does not get picked up enough. It is really good. It's a sneaky good item, but only the real experts pick it up. Casual players don't really see the benefit of this, which someone should. Duke Sloth, I'm paging Duke Sloth. Please talk about this item because it's a really good item. He knows it too. I just say make a video about it. Void Stone, reduced cost in 2350 to 2200, and the magical protections are now 50 to 60. So Ares would pick this up. Ares and like some aggressive tanks like a Bacchus or a Bracken, and now there's more incentive to do so. It's cheaper, and the magical protections make it a bit more justified. So it's kind of like a how do I put it? It's kind of like Void Shield. I mean, hence the name, but yeah. And now God changes. Now remember, out of all those items, it looked just fine. Everything looked just fine. Not some debatable whether they were needed, but unwelcomed, hell no. Now let's get to the buffs. Alpwash. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. Alpwash, I think he's in a good spot. These buffs, unnecessary in some ways, but other than that, I see no true qualms. If it becomes a nuisance, we'll let him know. We'll let Hi-Rez know. Base health is up from 375 to 400, so he's less squishy. HP per level 70 to 75, and movement speed he's slightly faster, 365. Undead Surge has a mana cost reduction 7110 to 7090. Corpse Explosion has a mana cost reduction of 60-100, 60-80, and Empty the Crypts mana cost is adjusted to now 100 at all ranks. Reduce casting time to half a second to just instant, and increase recovery time from 0.1 seconds to 0.6 seconds. Good. It's good for him. It makes him even more dangerous, which, considering how healers are, in my opinion, starting to become more of a nuisance, maybe buffing the only anti-heal god would be nice to have, especially for the sake of counter-picking. Amazon Cobb, I heard somewhere, I don't know if this is true, that his hives used to be able to show where enemies were. Well, guess what? Now they can do that again. Reveal all enemy gods within 20 units to all allies and show hive areas at all times. Basically, you might not even need to ward much, because unless it's a big empty space, you could have Amazon Cobb put hives in the small parts of the jungle where it's a small entrance / exit. So those small spots, they'll be shown. So unless someone has a real long ranging hit like an Aphrodite, they're gonna get spotted. I don't know if they make the pingy sound like a ward will, but we'll see. So it shows the area of a hive being placed in targeting mode, increased radius from 80 to 90, and reduced mana cost to 40 at all ranks. And as for his honey, increased bees flying to honey from hives range from 55 to 90. Bacchus is getting a buff after getting that nerf a long time ago, where with his ultimate being less CC with the drunk effect. Belt to the Gods now has healing reduction debuff from 25% to 50%, so now he's also going to be picked up in the case of if a team has too many healers on the other side. So good for him. So now you have Alpwash and Bacchus to just say, "Hey, what's up? I heard you like heals, so we're gonna get rid of those." Camisot's he gets like he's getting a. People are debating him, and I think to me it's a matter of, like I said with the other two, with Fafnir and Terra, people need to give it time and understand these gods before you debate whether you buff or nerf them. So let's just see. Cooldown reduced for his Screech from 15 to 13 seconds. Vampire Bats separate slow and damage over time into separate effects. Added a new visual effects to convey the slow. Bats will still convey the DOT. Bat Out of Hell is increased duration of this ability from 3 seconds to 4 seconds. Now passes through player-created deployables. So yeah, he gets a bit of a buff. I hope this buff isn't the reason he becomes OP. I thought he was an okay god. He just needs people to understand him more. And yeah, but now here's one. These two, I'm glad. Now, Kali, as you know, is a strong late game god. That's where she is. She is the epitome of a late game god. Anyway, marked for death. This ability now has a new menu to allow Kali players to select their first target. That's so good because RNG would dictate, it's like, oh, guess what? You have to go take out a Ymir as your first target. If you're Kali, you want to look. You want to target the first person, the one that's like, say they have a rough early game, or they can't escape you. So you want to get like a squishy mage that can't really escape you, like a Poseidon, for example, or an ADC with no escapes, like an Artemis. But you might get somebody that's harder to kill, like, I don't know, a Loki, or like I mentioned, Ymir or Ares. They're going to be problems for you. That's good. Whenever Kali dies, she may change targets through the same menu. So if she's dead, it used to be the person who killed you would be your target, which that can be a problem, because what if that guy is insanely fed? Like, they got a 2-level gap between you and them, that's going to be hard. But now if you pick someone who's 0 level or maybe underleveled, great news, that person can be targeted. But if you kill a target, Mark for Death will select the closest god to Kali. So, in that team scenario I mentioned, let's say you killed a Poseidon, but Artemis is closest to you. She's your new target. Next, Serket. This one I'm glad for. Thank God, because Serket is a very weird god. She's great in Conquest, bad in everywhere else, but honestly, if it's a big map and she can hide, she's great. But anyway, Last Breath. If you missed it, it would go on cooldown. Not anymore. This ability will now only go on cooldown if it successfully hits a target. Thank God, Serket is great, and I'm glad that it's one thing if you miss your ult, like when I play Raw, you know I miss some snipes. It's one thing if I miss the snipe, but that's a shot. This is something you need to latch onto somebody and do, and it's supposed to be one that's meant to make contact. If you miss, it shouldn't. I say it shouldn't count, but I mean it's very different. That's what I'm trying to say. I should probably have thought of somebody that's an assassin, but I think you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. And last but not least, Thanatos, the Hand of Death. His abilities now cost a percentage of his current health, not a percentage of his total health. Which I think that's more fair. It's a more, how do I put it? It's a more reasonable thing, if you ask me. And then last, Soul Reap. The silence duration is now a flat 1 second at all ranks, instead of having to go from half a second to 1.5. So it's a buff and a nerf. Early game, it's going to be a little more devastating. Late game, it's going to feel the same. So, all in all, I think this is a great patch. Everything's, I mean, they buffed a bunch of gods, and I can't really say any of them needed it. I would say Camazotz, but that's just because I think people need to see where he really stands. I don't think a week, not even a week, it's half a week mostly. They probably made this decision 3 days ago. I think that we should just give it a month and see where a god stands. This is why I'm hoping next patch, or next year, Season 4, they should just have a patch a month and stick with that. Or if not just a month, make it 3 weeks. I don't like this whole every week. It feels like every week patch, then a patch note show, patch notes show. You see what I mean? It's every 2 weeks. I think 2 weeks. It's not even exactly 2 weeks. I would say it's like 1.5. That's what it feels like to me. I'd like it if it were 3 weeks to a month. I think that's more fair because people have more time to assess these gods. You're not just waiting. You're not dependent on the patch notes as much. If you that's where I'm trying to get at. I feel like with the way things are, people just depend on the patch notes to change anything. Where sometimes if you just give it enough time and you study these gods, you might find other ways to beat them, or you might find ways to make them better if they're not considered good in the meta. But anyway, I think that'll do it. Still, all in all, a good patch. Feel free to check out other videos, and yeah, I think that'll do it for this video. I will see you guys in another one.